that piece of work that he wrote back then, it's not done.
Until we called off that wedding, you know what I mean? It was really devastating to me.
New leaked video proves why Jennifer Lopez is evil. There are celebrities who are rumored to be difficult, and then there are celebrities whose reputations follow them from room to room. For decades, Jennifer Lopez has been sold as the ultimate triple threat: beauty, talent, hustle, and star power wrapped into one unstoppable brand. She's been framed as the hardworking underdog who made it, the diva who earned her place, the icon who can't be touched. But behind the gloss, behind the choreography, and behind the carefully managed image, a very different narrative has been quietly stacking up. One former backup singer recently went viral on TikTok with a claim that stopped people cold. She described working in close quarters with Jennifer Lopez for months, only to be treated like she didn't exist. According to her, if you were too pretty or Latina, the energy shifted. The word she used wasn't demanding, it was bully. And that was just the beginning. Former staff members have alleged that Lopez earned herself an industry nickname, not for her talent, but for her pay practices. Others have described a workplace culture where acknowledgement was rare, respect was conditional, and silence was the norm. Then there are the stories that refuse to go away. The Las Vegas casino tip, the hotel maid who lost her job over an autograph request, the recurring accusations that some of Jennifer Lopez's biggest hits weren't entirely hers to begin with, songs that made her a pop legend, vocals that may not even belong to her. Artists like Ashanti and Christina Milian have long been whispered about in the same breath as J.Lo's success. Their voices allegedly left on tracks while the credit went elsewhere. And then there are the feuds. The icy dismissal from Mariah Carey, "I don't know her." The sudden distance from longtime friend Leah Remini. The side eyes, unfollows, and shade from artists who don't usually miss. Even her love life hasn't escaped scrutiny. Years after their brief marriage, her first husband resurfaced with accusations of cheating and manipulation, claims that may or may not be credible, but which fit uncomfortably well into an already growing pattern of controversy. And now, in a moment when her career should be steady, something else is happening. The public mood is shifting. Projects are underperforming. Fans are questioning her relevance. And moments that once would have been praised are now being called desperate, tone-deaf, or forced. The question people are asking isn't whether Jennifer Lopez is famous. It's whether the image she's built can survive scrutiny in an era that no longer protects icons by default. Because when too many people tell the same story from different angles, it stops sounding like hate. It starts sounding like a pattern. For years, Jennifer Lopez has been presented as untouchable, the pop star who outworked everyone, the actress who crossed genres, the fashion icon who never fell off. Her story has always been framed as discipline and dominance, a woman who demanded excellence because she embodied it. But behind the polish, a very different reputation has followed her through the industry. It's not the kind that shows up in press releases or award speeches. It's the kind that circulates quietly among dancers, assistants, hotel staff, background singers, people who don't have the luxury of clapping back publicly. One of those voices recently broke through on TikTok. A former backup singer described months of working in close quarters with Lopez, rehearsals, performances, daily proximity, and being treated as if she didn't exist. According to her, Jennifer wouldn't make eye contact, wouldn't acknowledge people on her own team, and created an environment where silence felt intentional, not accidental. Her words hit hard. If you were too pretty or Latina, she said, the tension was worse. The word she chose wasn't demanding or strict, it was bully. That clip spread fast, not because it was shocking, but because for many, it sounded familiar. Former staff members have long claimed that Jennifer Lopez developed an unflattering nickname behind the scenes, PLO. Not for performance or longevity, but allegedly for paying staff significantly less than industry standards, sometimes as much as 50% below what they could earn elsewhere. To people who depend on gig-based work, that kind of reputation matters. And once again, this wasn't a one-off complaint. It was a pattern people whispered about, but rarely challenged openly. Because speaking out against a star of that magnitude can cost you your career. Then there are the stories that crossed out of whispers and into headlines. In 2003, Lopez was spotted in Las Vegas with her then-boyfriend Ben Affleck. After a big win at a casino table, Affleck reportedly left a $2,000 tip for the dealer. Before it could be collected, Lopez allegedly took the cash back and replaced it with $200. To some, that moment became shorthand for something bigger. Not about money, but control. The idea that generosity was overridden, publicly, without hesitation. Then came an incident in Germany that refuses to fade from her reputation. While staying at a luxury hotel, a maid reportedly approached Lopez's room hoping for an autograph. She never reached Lopez directly. Instead, she spoke to an assistant and was turned away. The next day, the maid was fired. According to the maid, her employer told her that Jennifer Lopez had complained. Was it inappropriate to ask for an autograph while on duty? Possibly. But being fired over it struck many as extreme, especially when the star involved had the power to let it go quietly. That theme, power exercised without empathy, comes up again and again. But where the criticism intensifies is not just in how Lopez treats people, it's in how she's accused of building her career. For years, fans and industry insiders have questioned how much of Jennifer Lopez's music is actually Jennifer Lopez's voice. Her breakout hit, If You Had My Love, was immediately compared to a near-identical track recorded earlier by R&B singer Shanice, often misattributed in online debates, but part of a broader discussion about sound-alike controversies in that era. While no legal action stuck, the comparison planted a seed. That seed grew with later releases. Songs like Play and I'm Real remix became massive hits. But fans noticed something strange. The vocals didn't always sound like J.Lo. They sounded like other artists. In the case of Play, the demo and background vocals were recorded by Christina Milian, and those vocals were left on the final track. Lopez did not fully re-record them. With I'm Real remix, the situation raised even more eyebrows. Ashanti recorded the reference vocals, and listeners later realized those vocals were still present on the released version. Lopez was front and center in the video, but the voice many were hearing wasn't entirely hers. Credit was minimal. Public acknowledgement was non-existent. Then there's Jenny from the Block, arguably Lopez's signature song. The chorus, bridge, and ad-libs were sung by another vocalist, Natasha Ramos, whose contributions were largely unknown to the public for years. To critics, this wasn't collaboration, it was appropriation. To defenders, it was business, the way pop music has always worked. But even within pop's messy history, Lopez's name keeps resurfacing in these same conversations, again and again, across different albums and eras. Which leads to the next question many fans started asking out loud. Does Jennifer Lopez actually sing, or does she sell an image supported by other people's voices? That question didn't exist in isolation. It collided with long-standing industry tension. When Mariah Carey famously said, "I don't know her," it became one of the most quoted pop culture moments of the 2000s. But behind the meme was real history. Both women were once under the same label. Mariah was working on Glitter and had sampled Firecracker by Yellow Magic Orchestra. Weeks later, Lopez released I'm Real, using the same sample, and got it out first. Mariah reportedly felt sabotaged by the label, which at the time was influenced by her ex-husband, a powerful music executive who was backing Lopez. That moment didn't feel accidental to people who knew the industry. It felt strategic. And then there are the friendships that quietly disappeared. For years, Leah Remini and Jennifer Lopez were inseparable, Red carpets, vacations, interviews, constant public support. Then, suddenly, nothing. No wedding attendance, no premieres, no explanation. Fans noticed, especially when Leah began posting cryptic messages about boundaries, peace, and knowing who's real, without ever naming names. Again, no confirmation, just another pattern. By this point, the conversation around Jennifer Lopez had shifted. It wasn't about one bad story or one awkward moment. It was about accumulation. When too many people, across decades, across industries, describe the same energy, the same behavior, the same sense of entitlement, it stopped sounding like coincidence. And this was before her personal life, her exes, and her recent career struggles added even more fuel to the fire. Because once the public stops protecting an icon, everything gets re-examined. And Jennifer Lopez, whether she likes it or not, is now under that microscope. As the stories about Jennifer Lopez continued to circulate, something interesting happened. The conversation stopped being about isolated incidents and started becoming about relationships. Specifically, the long list of people who once stood close to her and then quietly stepped away. In Hollywood, feuds are common. Burned bridges aren't unusual. But what raised eyebrows in J.Lo's case was how consistently the pattern repeated. Collaboration, proximity, success, followed by distance, tension, or silence. One of the earliest and most famous examples is her icy dynamic with Mariah Carey. To casual fans, Mariah's now iconic line, "I don't know her," sounded like petty shade. But inside the industry, many saw it as something deeper. At the turn of the 2000s, both women were tied to the same powerful label ecosystem. Mariah was working on the Glitter soundtrack and had sampled Firecracker by Yellow Magic Orchestra for one of her tracks. Then, unexpectedly, Jennifer Lopez released I'm Real, using the exact same sample, and released it first. The timing mattered. According to long-standing industry rumors, Mariah felt blindsided. She believed the move wasn't accidental, but orchestrated by executives who were no longer on her side, including her ex-husband, a major music power broker who was now backing Lopez's rise. In that context, "I don't know her" didn't sound like dismissal. It sounded like a boundary. Whether or not sabotage was intentional, the fallout was real. The two artists never reconciled publicly, and the tension became a defining pop culture rivalry of the era. But Mariah wasn't the only one. Another relationship that quietly unraveled was Lopez's long friendship with Leah Remini. For years, the two were inseparable. They attended events together, vacationed together, and spoke glowingly about each other in interviews. Leah even defended Jennifer publicly on multiple occasions, calling her loyal and misunderstood. Then, abruptly, the connection vanished. Leah did not attend Jennifer's wedding to Ben Affleck. She wasn't present at major premieres. There were no birthday posts, no explanations, just absence. Fans began noticing cryptic messages on Leah's social media, quotes about protecting your peace, recognizing one-sided relationships, and distancing yourself from controlling energy. Again, no names were mentioned, but the timing spoke loudly. Insiders have speculated that Leah grew tired of what they described as J.Lo's all-about-me environment. A dynamic where relationships revolved around Jennifer's needs, schedule, and image. None of this has been confirmed by either woman, but the silence itself became part of the story. Then there were the subtle snubs from artists who usually don't bother with drama. In 2016, rumors swirled that Jennifer Lopez had begun dating Drake shortly after his rumored involvement with Rihanna. Almost immediately, Rihanna unfollowed J.Lo on Instagram. Rihanna rarely explains herself publicly, but fans know one thing. When she unfollows someone, it's deliberate, especially when the two had previously been friendly. Some believed it was about Drake. Others felt it went deeper, that Lopez had a habit of attaching herself to trending names and moments to stay culturally relevant. The highly publicized Instagram photos of J.Lo and Drake together felt performative to many, and Rihanna's quiet response spoke volumes. Then there was Nicki Minaj. During the 2015 American Music Awards, cameras caught Nicki giving Jennifer Lopez a look that instantly went viral. Pure daggers. The moment happened while J.Lo danced to Nicki's music during a performance that Nicki herself was not part of. For an artist as protective of her work as Nicki, fans interpreted it as a boundary violation. Later interviews where Nicki criticized pop stars for borrowing from hip-hop culture without giving credit only fueled speculation. No direct call-out was ever made, but the message felt clear to many watching. And then there's Christina Milian. Milian wrote and recorded the demo for Play, one of J.Lo's biggest hits. Her vocals are still clearly audible on the final track. While Christina has publicly stated she was happy for the opportunity and harbors no resentment, fans have continued to side-eye the situation. The pattern, reference vocals left intact, minimal acknowledgement, and Lopez fronting the performance, felt familiar by this point. To supporters, this was standard pop industry practice. To critics, it looked like a brand built on other people's voices. That criticism only intensified when Lopez's personal life re-entered the spotlight. Her first husband, Ojani Noah, resurfaced with renewed accusations. The two were married briefly in the late 1990s, and their relationship has remained tense for decades. After Lopez claimed in a high-profile interview that she had never truly been loved by her past partners, Noah fired back on social media. He accused her of playing the victim. He alleged infidelity during their marriage. He claimed she prioritized fame over the relationship. To be clear, Noah's credibility has been questioned repeatedly. He has attempted to release private footage in the past and has a long history of public grievances involving Lopez. Even many critics of J.Lo urge caution when it comes to taking his claims at face value. Still, the timing added fuel to an already burning narrative. The more stories resurfaced, from old collaborators, former friends, backup performers, and exes, the harder it became to dismiss them all as jealousy or coincidence. And then came the shift that truly changed everything. The public stopped defending her automatically. Recent projects underperformed. Social media reactions cooled. Moments that once would have been celebrated were suddenly labeled desperate or out of touch. When Lopez posted a highly polished, body-focused Instagram video during a moment of professional criticism, fans didn't cheer. They questioned the optics. Instead of empowerment, many saw deflection. That reaction would have been unthinkable a decade earlier. But fame today works differently. Legacy doesn't guarantee loyalty, and nostalgia doesn't cancel accountability. By this point, the question surrounding Jennifer Lopez wasn't whether she had talent, beauty, or drive. It was whether the carefully constructed image could survive an era where audiences demand authenticity, and where patterns, once ignored, are finally being examined. Because once fans stop clapping, they start asking questions. And Jennifer Lopez is now answering them, whether she wants to or not. By the time the conversation reached Jennifer Lopez's recent work, the tone had clearly changed. What once felt like untouchable stardom was now being openly questioned, not by tabloids alone, but by longtime fans. For most of her career, Jennifer Lopez benefited from something rare in Hollywood: cultural momentum. Even when a movie underperformed or a song didn't dominate the charts, her image carried her forward. She always seemed to bounce back stronger, louder, shinier. But this time, the bounce didn't land the same. Her latest film release didn't just miss expectations, it face-planted. And for an artist at her level, that kind of flop doesn't live in a vacuum. It triggers reassessment. Suddenly, critics weren't just reviewing the project, they were reevaluating the brand. Was the audience still there? Was the magic still working? Or had people finally grown tired of being sold the same story? Then came the Instagram video. Jennifer posted a highly polished clip showing off her body, minimal clothing, full glam, classic J.Lo confidence. In another era, it would have broken the internet in a positive way. But this time, the reaction was colder, sharper, The comments told a different story. Fans weren't denying that she looked incredible. That was never the issue. What bothered people was the timing. From their perspective, a project had just flopped, criticism was mounting, and instead of addressing the moment with reflection or vulnerability, she responded with spectacle. To many, it felt like deflection. The phrase, "read the room," started popping up again and again. That disconnect mattered more than the video itself. Because once fans feel unseen or brushed off, loyalty begins to crack. And when loyalty cracks, scrutiny rushes in to fill the gap. Suddenly, people weren't just critiquing the film, they were questioning her relevance. And relevance, in the age of TikTok and algorithm-driven culture, is brutally unforgiving. Nostalgia only goes so far. Early 2000s dominance doesn't guarantee present-day engagement. The industry no longer rewards legacy alone. It rewards resonance. What did you do recently? What do you represent now? For the first time in a long time, Jennifer Lopez looked out of sync with the audience. That tension spilled into everything she did next. Her social media activity increased dramatically. Multiple TikToks in a single day promoting her album rollout. Similar messaging, similar energy. To some fans, it didn't feel confident. It felt anxious. Instead of "remember me," people heard, "please don't forget me." And when fans sense desperation, even unintentionally, it changes the power dynamic. Then there were the performances. During a high-profile award show appearance, Lopez kissed multiple backup dancers, men and women, on stage. The performance came shortly after her divorce was finalized, and social media exploded. Some defended it as bold and expressive. Others called it forced. Many described it as uncomfortable. The same word kept resurfacing: desperate. That criticism followed her into the summer, where she performed at a major Pride music festival wearing a series of extremely revealing outfits. Once again, defenders praised her confidence and right to self-expression. Critics argued that it felt like provocation without purpose. During her Up All Night Live tour, reports surfaced describing choreography that leaned heavily into overt sensuality. Industry insiders allegedly expressed concern that the performances were less about artistry and more about reclaiming attention in the wake of personal upheaval. Fair or not, the narrative stuck. And then came the optics surrounding Ben Affleck. After their very public breakup, Lopez's Instagram filled with glamorous photos, motivational quotes about self-love, and carefully curated images of independence. On their own, none of that was unusual. But paired with paparazzi shots of Affleck looking exhausted, withdrawn, or irritated, the contrast became meme fuel. Every time he looked worn down, Jennifer seemed to appear shortly after, glowing, smiling, styled to perfection. To critics, it felt performative. To fans, it felt like overcompensation. And that's where the deeper issue emerged. Jennifer Lopez's image has always been tightly controlled. But in 2025, audiences are more sensitive to branding than ever before. They can spot strategy. They can feel when authenticity gives way to calculation. When an image starts feeling more like a campaign than a person, emotional investment fades. That's exactly what began happening. People weren't saying she lacked talent. They weren't denying her work ethic. They weren't erasing her legacy. They were saying something far more dangerous to a celebrity brand. We're tired. Tired of the constant visibility. Tired of the forced moments. Tired of being told how iconic something is instead of feeling it naturally. Once that sentiment takes hold, even minor missteps feel amplified. Every post gets dissected. Every performance gets side-eyed. Every choice is framed as either insecurity or ego. Jennifer Lopez, once protected by sheer star power, was now being judged by the same standards as everyone else. And in that environment, past controversies resurface fast. Old accusations about treatment of staff, lingering questions about vocals and credit, long-standing feuds that suddenly look less petty and more telling. The internet doesn't forget, it waits. What made this moment different from past criticism cycles was scale. The pushback wasn't coming from one corner. It was coming from fans, casual viewers, pop culture commentators, and even people who once defended her fiercely. The narrative had shifted from admiration to exhaustion. And that's the most dangerous phase for any public figure. Because outrage fades, hate cools off. But indifference? Indifference ends careers. Jennifer Lopez is not irrelevant. Not yet. Her name still carries weight. Her legacy is still intact. But for the first time in decades, that legacy is being treated as past tense rather than ongoing dominance. And that realization is forcing a reckoning. Is she adapting to the moment or fighting it? Is she listening or doubling down? Is this a rough patch or the beginning of a long fade? Those questions now hang over every move she makes. And with the internet watching closer than ever, the margin for error has never been thinner. If this breakdown made you rethink celebrity power, image, and accountability in the modern era, hit like to push this conversation forward. Share it so others can decide where they stand. And subscribe for more deep dives into fame, influence, and the stories behind the headlines. We'll keep watching what happens next, because this chapter isn't over yet.